Long time no see, Tim. Weren't we just here last night?
Seems like it.
Yeah, we were.
Set? All right, I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Village Planning Commission of Almont for January 4th, 2024 to order, please. May I have a roll call?
Kariuski,
Here.
Meek,
Here.
Zender,
Here.
Schneider,
Present.
Dyke, Carl.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
All present and accounted for. Very good. First one of the new year. Kim, do you have any communications for us?
No, sir.
Nothing at all. All right, then we'll continue to move on. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Unless there are any changes, corrections, or alterations, I would accept a motion to approve the agenda as it's presented.
So moved.
I have Steve moved and Tim seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of December 7th, 2023. They were included in your board packet, and unless there are any changes, alterations, or corrections, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
To approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. We have no public comments this evening. We do not have any public hearings this evening, and we do not have any new business this evening. What we have is unfinished business, our master plan, and I will turn the meeting over to Caitlin.
Well, Happy New
Happy New
Year,
Year.
everybody. So going through a few different items today regarding some upcoming items. So the first one is just to recap a little bit that we have these three top slogans. So at the open house, we're going to have people vote for those specific slogans. So a small town with a big heart, a place to call home, and when you're here, you're home. So that'll be something that we actively work on as we figure out what the winner will be. So the next course of business is to talk about when we want to hold the open house. So the open house is a 3-hour public engagement period. Now it's intended to be where somebody can stay for 15 minutes. They just quickly do the survey associated with the board, provide their input, and then leave. Or some people like to, there'll be small little groups of people that kind of go and talk about this issue or that issue, and they can stay with us all 3 hours if they'd like. And typically it's somewhere between 4 or 7 or 5 or 8. So trying to give a pretty wide in the evening when people are more or less available without it getting too late. So I don't know if we have a preference if it starts at 4 or if it starts at 5. And then the other thing we would deliberate is some of the dates. So from the original document I sent out, there was some redlined crossed out dates. And so that's brings us to these 4 dates. So the January 17th, the 18th, the 30th, and the 31st.
I'm
So
assuming the 9th is way too close.
I
for
took
that.
the 9th out because I didn't think that would give adequate PR ability for that event.
What do we what are we looking for to accomplish at this open house, and what kind of forum will we have? When you say people would come in and voice, concerns or opinions or whatever, will we be convening in this arena like this, or what exactly will we be doing?
Sure. So I encourage everyone to come to the open house. You do not, as a planning commission member, it's good to talk with the public firsthand about some of these specific topics. Do not feel like you have to stay all 3 hours. Happy to have you, but you don't have to come for all 3. And it's meant as a very passive engagement. So there's going to be 5 boards or 7 boards displayed up here. So on the screen, I have one of our boards, so our new community identity. And I'm going to have stickers, and everyone gets a sticker, and they're going to vote which one of these 3 slogans do you like the most. Put your sticker on it. The second board is talking a little bit where we are today, so giving some background, where our population growth is, what our demographic is, housing, those kind of burdens, and then our county projection as far as those major significant trends that we're seeing from a housing standpoint, but also from a population standpoint. So we've talked about that in our own group, how we see that we're losing the population of 20 to 35-year-olds. So that's significant as far as young families, workforce. And then you have people increasing in population to 75 years or older. So you have your older members of the community that are increasing in numbers. And then cost continues to increase for different improvements such as utilities, roads, while we're not sure exactly where that population number is going to be. So our general growth is predicted is 6.4%. But one of those things with growth is you have to have, that's assuming there's still new development. And so if we think about our community survey, that was something that was specifically mentioned. They don't want to see a lot of growth. So now what? As far from a population standpoint, from a housing standpoint, significant trends. There's not a lot of small housing units for those who are aging. They want not a 3-4 bedroom house. And those who are young professionals, that 20 to 34-year-olds, they don't start out with a full house necessarily, especially with prices how they've been. And so rentals have been really high. One way to compete with higher pricing of those is to have more competition. So then prices are a little bit more competitive. And we recommend at least a third of that household income in the village current rentals. We have 35% or more are spending over that recommendation. So that's a pretty significant portion of our rental population. So that's kind of what this is trying to just set up where we actually are now based on data that we have, rather than just, well, I feel this way, which is great. Everyone can feel how they want to feel about their community, where we want to go, but here's some data associated with where we are.
Let's start right at the very beginning. I walk in the door that evening. Let's say I show up here at 4:30.
Right.
What am I walking into?
So you'll have an arena. I'm probably going to put the boards against this or around the table. I will be there. One of my other colleagues will be here. We'll have a sign-in sheet, say, hey, happy to have you here. Kind of do like a mini introduction and say you can start on that front board and work your way around, but it's intended to be anyone can go to whatever board they want and participate and look over the information. But usually we'll try to flow it from the entrance around. So that's kind of how it's meant to be. We'll probably encourage putting up a few tables in the area so people can sit down and chat. One thing that we didn't cover, usually the village will, is to do like light refreshments and cookies or something, just to make it so you have something else to do while you're here.
A little more comfortable.
Right.
Yeah. Now, how will we communicate this date to our residents?
So I'm intending.
Whatever date we pick.
Right. So I'm intending that we'll do a similar to how we did the survey. So pending our review of what time and what date, I'm ready to go on the flyer. And so we'll post that around in the village. We'll put it on the Facebook. We'll encourage, hopefully we'll be able to get a student to make sure the government teacher is aware of this public meeting opportunity.
Sure.
And encourage that participation. That would be awesome.
Yep.
So I think that would be great. And so that's kind of the intention is
I
we'll
see.
do it those 3 different ways. Other than I do also encourage you as members to also recruit a neighbor to come with you to the meeting if you can.
Very good. That gives me a little bit of an idea of what the evening will look like,
Yep.
whatever time we pick.
So we'll have a few different options. So there's the sticker option. There is a survey that goes with some of it. So part of it, so one of the sections is on transportation. So we're talking about sidewalks. And we're talking about these are the 4 major issues: connectivity, additional corner connections, missing crosswalks, and then adding sidewalks because the network isn't complete. And so there's 3 different ways you can deal with making improvements to sidewalk from a fiscal standpoint. You can do special assessments, you can do millage rates, or you can set aside general funds. So out of those potential options, what do you think is better from that standpoint? And then we get that information, we can report it back out to say how much of the sidewalk, what do you think, how would you rank that still from a priority standpoint, looking at where our issues are and those identified issues? Same thing with our roadway plan. So were you aware that there was a roadway plan? Do you agree with the priority of that roadway plan? So,
Will there be like a QR code? that they
correct.
can-
Yep.
okay.
So you'll go up with your phone and you'll scan it, and then you'll have the survey for that board.
I see. Okay.
And so there'll be a few different QR codes. Same thing with what do you want to protect? The community survey said these 4 systems. We have our scenarios for south of the village area. So the most intense one being the aging in place scenario, medium, and then Drakeshire 2.0, I guess, which is, I guess, if we decided to change nothing, that's what could happen there, because that's what we currently have. And then we have, what do we need to add? And so we're going to have a sticky note exercise so people can take right on the table what they think we need to add, and then we're going to stick it up there. We did ask that during the community survey, but now it'll be a little bit easier because you're not just doing it by yourself. You're doing it with somebody else because you can see what other people put. So I'm thinking we might also have stickers there. So if somebody wrote down your idea already on a sticky, then you can put a sticker on that because you're like, oh yeah, 100% agree. That's what we should also add. So it'll be a little bit more collaborative.
Sure. Sure.
And so we put some of those different ideas that we kind of anticipated. So more sidewalks and crosswalks, cleaner downtown, more downtown life, variety of utility services. So some ideas, and then we'll see where the public goes. Then our last one that we've talked about is Burley Park. So we've talked about some different improvements potentially there. I don't know if there's a concept picture still in the works or not. We have a little bit to find out. Otherwise, that orange box is going to be something else. But that's something that we had talked about putting on-street parking. And I don't remember if the last concept was going to be parallel parking or angled parking. I know I've talked with Mr. Trent when he was here about either option. But if we have an idea of which one we want to do, we can communicate that and then hear back from the public. Do they generally like the direction we're going? So that's the intention of that open house, is to communicate information, receive information, and help prioritization. And then at our following meeting after the open house, we'll talk about what the results are. And then we'll also talk about our implementation plan as far as what strategies still make sense. So circling back to the original question, which is, do we want to go from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock or 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock?
Gee, a 5 o'clock start time.
I agree with that, 5 to 8.
Okay. And then the next question is talking about what date. So there's Wednesday, January 17th, Thursday, January 18th, Tuesday, January 30th, and Wednesday, January 31st.
We'll have a planning commission meeting on the 1st, correct? The following
Of
night?
February, correct.
Yeah, February 1st.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn that around and give it to you at the meeting. I wouldn't be able to send it in the packet ahead.
Yeah, no kidding.
Maybe if we did the teams, then I could have it ready for your packet. But otherwise, your implementation chapter is more or less done. So that can be sent ahead. It's just the open house portion wouldn't be ready yet.
I can make all of them, so it's not a problem on my end.
My preference would be for the 30th.
30th?
And it's a far way out, but
Is that a council meeting night?
Pardon?
Is that a council meeting
No.
night? That is not.
no.
It's a bonus week.
Pardon?
It's a bonus week. It's the 5th week of the month.
Ah,
No meetings that week.
one of those long months, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 31 days, yeah. I don't have a problem with any of them, really.
All right, so the
Fine.
I'm open
30th.
for any of them.
Okay.
30th?
Okay. Great.
Okay, so I will have the 30th, then I'll work on completing that flyer, and then we'll go about distributing like we did the community survey, and we had a really good result. So I'm hoping that we'll do the exact same there as well.
Now, when they come for the open house, are we gonna differentiate between village and township residents, or village and non-village? Because it could be someone outside the township altogether too.
We could, one of the things that, because we have a few different ways people can vote, that's going to be a little bit trickier to segregate other than the community survey or that survey portion. The QR code, I could ask what you are.
Right.
Put on the sign-in sheet too.
And the sign-in sheet, correct. Not that I wouldn't know what they did, but we could proportionately know we had 10% that were from the township or
Yeah.
components thereof. So I guess more or less that's usually what I do is I put on this on the sign-in sheet, what's your relationship to the village, and they'll put township, and that's their relationship is they're in the township.
And it's conceivable we could get people outside the township as well, some people just wondering what we're doing. Maybe not many, but there's always that possibility you could get.
Well, and I'm hoping too that we'll get some people with the DDA, so they may not live here, but they own a business, and so that's the relationship. Is they're very much a part of our Elmont community, but they own a business, they don't live here.
Mhm. Sounds good. So Tuesday, the 30th, 5 to 8. Okay. And we're going to hold it in here, Kim? This room?
I've been, many years ago, I attended them, and there was, a lot of tables set out and just kind of mingled. And sometimes you sit down with 5 or 6 people. And it worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but yeah.
Well, and you're categorizing it as an open house, which means, I can bop in, see what's going on, ask a few questions. If I'm done, I can leave. It's not like you're locked into staying for the whole 3 hours. That helps a little bit too.
Sure. To make sure to get the word out.
All right. What else for us? Anything else?
Yes, so our last item on our agenda is to talk about redevelopment or development sites. So I provided a list of specifically sites. So as part of the Redevelopment Ready Community Program, RRC, which we are an essentials member of, you're supposed to identify in your master plan specific sites that you want to target for a redevelopment opportunity.
If we had enough money, could we do them all?
You know what? That's the thing. Nothing like shooting for the moon.
Of course, it might blow the village budget, but
Win the lottery.
yeah, win the lottery.
Well, and some of it too is.
Can we go find that person in Grand Blanc who, 842 million? Excuse me. I'm sorry, Caitlin, go ahead.
Nope, you're good. And the other thing is there's private property in there, so some of it, we're not really sure what we can do with it. In the previous plan, we had like the Cherry Street project, so the planned unit development on the southwest side of the village, that's currently farmland. That was one of our redevelopment opportunity sites. Since then, it's my understanding the owner is not willing to do anything of that nature. They would like to keep it agricultural and
Where is this at?
the end of Cherry Street. So it's on that southwest side here.
Big field
By the junkyard.
Behind Jonathan.
behind Jonathan.
Okay,
No, yeah.
Yep, south of your subdivision.
okay.
So this area.
Looking at this list, they all sound like great ideas. And I hope this doesn't sound self-serving because I'm close by. I would think the most important of these potential projects would be the movie theater, because it's right in the heart of downtown as you first come into town, and it's looked junky for so many years. And if that was developed, I think that would add be a major plus for the village in terms of what would stand out and be most impactful to the community downtown. Pardon?
Someone just purchased that, right? And are they planning on doing something with it?
Oh, yes,
So the
Yeah.
more,
yeah. So my understanding from the property manager, to have several exchanges with, he plans to start renovating in spring. So so if, in picking one of these, what exactly would we be picking?
So we can choose to have all of these listed as development or identify as key sites we would like to see turned over. But the next step in the RRC program, which as part of the essentials you're not required to do, but if you did certified, is then you have your MEDC representative, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. They partner with you and say, okay, how do we do a property package? Either starting that conversation with that property owner on what is available from a redevelopment standpoint, or if they don't want to do anything with it, they just want to sell the property, having that conversation, and does the village want to have it or does somebody else, to propel something forward. So it's the intention to start the conversation on, is there a roadblock here, and can we solve that simply? So that's the first step, is to first have that conversation. What do we see needing to be done from that standpoint? I know at one point the saddlery, that was on the previous master plans list too, and we've seen some investment through site plan and things of that nature done there. So is that kind of case closed, that investment is completed from a standpoint, and we have other fish to fry? So that putting it on this list just makes it so we don't forget about it. But otherwise, it's not requiring us to do anything.
I think part of what Glenn perhaps is putting on the table, well, if it's been sold to a person who has substantial financial worth, why would we look at that? But I do believe that would enhance, facilitate, and encourage the development more quickly and more completely. So that's just my reaction to that.
I also think we should try and come up with some criteria of how we're choosing the top three. I mean, one, importance to downtown. That theater's been a ramshackle for years, and if we can add some dollars to get that, even if they've got money, that's the most. Even if they've got money, it's a property we know is being utilized and being worked on, and a property that we know is going to be utilized should be one of our top priorities. And the location of the property should be a top priority. Then we should start looking at historical ownership, if they're interested in doing anything with the property or not. Or if they're not, if this RRDC would maybe push them to do something with the property. But if we've got a property that's sitting there and the owner has no want to do anything with it right now, why would we list that in our top three? I mean, that makes no sense. So I think we need to look at it from those perspectives of importance. Is it active or possibly going to be active, and what's the reality of an owner doing anything with it?
Well, as far as this particular building, initially, I know that the owner initially wanted a restaurant with pretty good meals, but for a reasonable price, maybe $20 for a dinner. And of course, we were dealing with pandemic, worker shortage, and whatever's happening in the food market. And the latest I heard is he wanted to make an Amdiano showcase, but he has definitive plans. He wants to turn it into something that's vibrant.
And out of all of these properties listed, I think that's the only one right now that's got an active plan going on.
Now, is your building going to get renovated too?
Yes.
It is?
Yes,
Okay.
and hopefully we won't end up on the street, but who knows?
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we have
So
a lease.
that building and the old pharmacy are going to get
Yeah,
renovated?
yes, they're
Both
they were-
inside and out?
correct.
Okay.
Yes, and I know there's plans to put a new roof on the building that we're in.
The one you're in?
Yeah, we have a flat roof, which is, they're terrible, and so you can at very least put a slope
Put a
roof
pitch on
on,
it? Yeah,
or maybe a second story.
I see. Okay.
and maybe even acquire the lot next door. The
Slovers?
Slocum, yeah, the Slocum lot, yeah, which has been.
Does Mike's
empty
Antiquary right across the street own that gravel parking lot? They do?
Yes.
Okay.
It's another area.
So I want to reiterate too, with the 3 that we're picking from a top standpoint, one of the things as part of our project that we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit more visionary components associated with that. So we're going to look at the site, provide some demographic information associated with that site. So how big it is, what currently is there, what's around it, and then talk about what are ideal uses that may go there. So we can list all of these as potential sites, but the 3 that we pick that we really want to push, I'm going to provide a bit more information regarding those sites.
I see the theater's already booked. We have a person that want to utilize that. So I don't know why we have to.
So you don't have to put it as your top 3 priority, but what I would say with development is you never know what you never know. So we've had 3 iterations of the Saddlery remodel. So I guess that's the reason I wouldn't, if we're still interested in something happening there, we're so close, we're so near to maybe them starting that there's no harm in still putting them on the list, but maybe not having them as our top 3 priority and focus our resources on some dreamscaping to other sites. But we can still keep it on there so we don't lose sight that that is something we want to see happen.
So of this entire list, which one of these are definitely hands-off? We can't do anything because either we don't own it or the owner's not interested. Because that eliminates, I mean, I'm assuming that would eliminate those if we can't get our hands on them or the owner says, nah, I'm not doing anything with it. Am I right or wrong?
Well, so the intention is we're not that far down the rope in some ways as far as, I think it makes sense from a top 3 priority. We want sites that we can potentially see more traction with, but I think it's also showing the prioritization that these are important. So do we think more parking downtown is really important? If the answer is yes, then we should probably prioritize that. And maybe it's not necessarily the vacant lot next to the Berkeley Park, but at least maybe we're thinking parking is a priority. What other opportunity may come up? And then we remember we do need more parking and then have that. So that's a little bit of this dreamscaping is we're not, and we're learning from the last update that we did. So Cherry Street isn't on this, the vacant parcel that we had that initial spark of interest and it's not going anywhere because you never know what can happen in 5 years. And that's the next time we'll check in.
Oh, parking is a major issue. Constantly having to confront whether it's at council, planning commission, et cetera.
The corner
So
of Mill Street.
the Howarth property, that one of the few disappointments I've ever had as council member, council president, was we had the opportunity to acquire that property, the Howarth home, for $2,000 because it was a tax foreclosure, if I recall correctly. You might
We
remember,
had
Tim.
first read of
And as a governmental unit, we had a priority and we could buy it for $2,000. And it came up for a vote before council. And the intent was we wanted to acquire it so we could take the house down. We thought, we offered a life estate to 2 elderly women who were living there, sisters, I think. And we offered a life estate, and they had the nerve to hire a lawyer. So Jim Toth managed to sell. 4 members of our 7-member council say, no, we don't want to do that. We feel sorry for the 2 older ladies, and we lost it. But that, since parking is a consistent issue we're having to deal with all the time and not having sufficient, that was the plan going back 15.
But I was one of the 4 before, and I was one of the 4 that voted to let them stay in the house, and the way they were treated, we made the right decision.
They were treated?
They had bills backed up, they were mentally incompetent, their family wasn't taking care of them, and they were gonna lose their house.
But lawyer responding, that we offered them a life estate, that they could live there for the rest of their lives. Obviously, it didn't work, so. But in any event, regardless of that's been a priority going way back as an opportunity to enhance downtown parking, which essentially would call for the demolition of the home and adding those parking spaces.
Nobody lives there now, do they?
Right.
Been sitting vacant.
Just to
Now,
my
the
knowledge.
corner of Mill Street and Van Dyke, that lot there, is that privately owned? It is. Okay. Would we be getting a little off track with that vacant lot where the A&W is? You're getting outside the downtown area. I
But
know
it's
you're
still our
within-
village property.
You're still within the village, but you are getting outside the downtown area. I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
Just from your standpoint, what do you think is a high priority? No, but it is a prime commercial development, I would say. If you could have some more infill there,
Yeah.
it's available.
Now, is that one, that's privately owned, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, Yep.
Most of the properties on this list are,
yeah.
or have an organization associated with it.
Mike's in Ticquerie. I think his first name is Jeff in reality. So does he own that property, the gravel lot?
Yes.
And is he willing to? Yeah, I didn't think so. He likes things the way they are. Okay.
Sometimes he
Because
parks
that's
his-
another potential for,
Yeah,
downtown.
sometimes he parks his truck there, so, with the side, so you can see it.
I mean, the industrial park, we have, a developer that has purchased 8 lots and he does plan on expanding on those. But I don't know if makes it a priority because we have someone that's willing to develop it.
Same thing as you're talking about.
Yep.
There's been similar right down to that time.
With redevelopment, does that have to be commercial or, like parking lot usage? Or can it be residential?
It can be whatever we want it to be. I would say from a RRC program, they prefer things not to just be a parking lot, but it's our community, and so they're not gonna.
We've talked about having more multiple unit, close to downtown, and that property across from Dollar General, we've talked about in the past that it might be a prime spot for a multi, apartment, a small apartment type building, and that to me would be a good priority. That,
I don't know if Chaka's Trust still owns that or not.
his willingness for the vacant lot across from Dollar General.
Is that the only property they own, is just that lot?
So yes.
Just that?
Which we had significant blowback when Dollar General was being developed there. The parties living there on School Street, very much opposed.
Yeah, but it would be, A, it would be residential, B, that was not part of the, a lot of the blowback for the Dollar General was two-phased. One was because of the historical pollutants on the site, and secondly was the imbibe traffic coming in and out. An apartment building's not gonna you're gonna have a few more cars, but it enhances the neighborhood, gets more apartments near downtown with low impact. I think it should be one of the three. And I can't answer about the ownership. I think the only one I know about ownership is I think the old dry cleaner site there right on Main Street has been pushed back before when we've been approached,
Yes.
just from a historical perspective. But that's the only one I know that on this list. Oh, and the vacant lot near Burley Park, that owner is not reluctant to deal with the village, maybe people close to the village, but not the village. So, from a historical standpoint too. Those are the only two I'm aware that are
What's going on?
resistant.
What's going on with the old American Legion?
Nothing. It's for sale.
We slap it there.
It's a small piece of property. There's not much there. Yeah, I don't think there's any parking to speak of.
Use DDA.
What is this expanded park here at the Bells?
So it's township-owned property, but it is the extra ball fields and things like that from the old high school that was there. And so one of the things you could consider is encouragement of that park being more developed as a park.
What about that triangle
South of
square right on
downtown.
the curve?
Right on the curve.
I don't think.
What's that zone?
Charlie Brown's.
Joe Israel owns that triangle, doesn't he?
No. You're talking
She
about.
means the other
this
side of
one,
Van
The other
Dyke.
side. The other side of Van Dyke.
Oh,
Right in North Street, in front of North
Yep.
Street.
Yep.
Where we used to have those two old shacks on there, and we had them taken down.
Yep.
Oh, so right here.
Exactly. Because it butts up to the ball fields, because I know a lot of people use that field to park.
Yes.
Oh,
I don't
I don't
know
think
if
that's
they
on
have
our
permission,
list.
But.
Well, a lot of them park at the Bells, and Jim's good enough to allow them to do that.
Right.
He doesn't have to, but you get a lot of car action in there. during those baseball season.
I don't know.
Is that,
That's
is
a-
that privately owned?
Mhm.
And is there a house on that property too?
There's nothing.
There was. Was there a
Oh,
stone building?
There were a couple of outbuildings.
Couple of
Out-style
outbuildings,
buildings. And what was that, Steve? Probably 2008, 2010, we had those taken down?
Yeah.
Sometime in that time.
Okay.
It's north of the Stone Building. Across from Charlie Brown's. It was owned by a woman in Romeo.
She bought it?
And she never, no, she owned it for years and years,
Oh.
and she never wanted to sell it.
I
She
remember.
was just kids,
Yeah.
two ladies, and belongs to the kids now.
I can't remember.
I have a lot of two old ladies.
Charlie Brown? Oh, across from Charlie
Yeah, it's
Brown.
across from Charlie Brown's.
Oh, okay. Because Charlie Brown's has new owners too.
Right.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Some of the two old ladies.
if you are looking at developing property on 53, you're going to need MDOT approval, entranceway, et cetera. That can be,
I'm assuming
Problematic.
they're not going to give you driveway without close. Your access is on north
Yeah.
for that property. There's no way MDOT's playing ball on that. No.
Challenging.
I know one of the priority sites, I don't know if I described it very well in this bullet point list, but is that, as part of the open house, is that south side of the village, where we were focusing on this area over here.
Is that on the list?
I don't think it was. That is my oversight issue. Sorry about that. But that is something we're talking about at the open house. So that might be a good priority.
But that's not in the village.
This one? Yeah, this one is.
Is that across from Drakeshire?
No.
Oh,
So this is the
Oh, it's done by.
Macintosh.
Macintosh.
Done by Weezy's.
Oh,
That big
okay.
field.
Yep,
Oh.
yeah, yeah, okay.
Yep, and then the village just acquired this one.
No, we haven't.
Thought about it.
We're negotiating.
We're
still.
negotiating
Yeah.
still. And that parcel,
Well, what about that parcel?
there you go. I don't think that's on our list.
Talking about
605, so south of the fireplace.
the one that's down in the.
Yep, right here, right south of the creek.
It's got the two big outbuildings.
Oh, south,
Way
south,
back.
south of the river?
No driveway.
Yeah.
So we said we don't want to do the theater because it's already in action? Is that a correct statement?
I sort of have a tendency to agree with Steve on,
No,
that
so-
would show us the most. I
No,
mean,
so-
if we could
no,
help it
no,
along.
No, I agree with him too, but I thought there was.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
Because personally, I think the theater, the place across from Dollar General, and then either, what's that?
He asked if that was
Oh.
in the floodplain.
Floodplain.
No. Mm-mm.
No?
Right next to the Clinton River.
Nope, I looked at it, because I was seeing how far it would go into the field and it doesn't. It stays really close to there, same thing with wetland soils and stuff like that. It's all wetland soils, but it's not wetland or much of a floodplain.
Is it right next to the river?
It
It's
is.
right next to the river. Just south of the river.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Or do we have our list, right? Or do we, I mean, we're the planning commission, but we're gonna have an open house. So do we narrow the list to 4 or 5? Not saying we take everything off the list, but if we wanna make priorities, do we narrow it to 5 and then sticker it at the open house like we're stickering everything else?
We could do that.
Not a bad idea.
I think that's a good
Then we
idea.
get public, well, it's kind of like downtown Main Street, with the, you know, you get more public input, you get more data. When we're 7 or 8 guys here sitting around saying, what's the priorities, and we're all scratching our heads not knowing.
Yep.
So why not put it out to the public?
Can't
It's
hurt.
not a bad
And it
idea.
gives you another station.
We need another board.
Can't hurt.
Yeah, label it possibilities. But that's not a bad idea. We could see we get some input from whoever shows up for the open house.
Right, so I still need then 4 sites then.
Yeah, you still need something to work with.
The pharmacy will be one. Are we in agreement on that?
Which one?
The top one.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's a good point. If you want to keep Burley Park as one of the 4 priorities. I guess I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because
Yes.
Berkeley already has its own
Yeah.
separate board.
Yeah.
Early, the old theater, the place across from.
Dollar General.
Dollar General.
Yep.
And then either the parcel or the industrial park. Would be my thought.
I agree. Where is that parcel at? Which one are you talking about?
That one right there.
The one south.
Oh,
of the
yeah,
river.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, those,
That one you also have the
yeah,
other-
that's gonna have the most.
I
eye
mean, if that
impact.
could be an attractive development,
Isn't,
that would really look nice coming into
We're
town.
going after that now? Aren't they
That's
working?
what we're trying to do, yeah.
And you can utilize, yeah, so we could utilize it through, when the park board gets it, it could be utilized with this, right?
Yes.
Good idea.
That would make a nice entrance into the village.
So it sounds like we have the 4. Okay,
We generally agreed those 4 at least. Does that sound reasonable?
I do, yep.
At least to start with, and we'll see what the public responds to. Okay. We have 7 nods, so, yeah.
okay. And so that concludes the content of the master plan for tonight.
Now, after the open house is done and you gather up your information, then what do we do next?
So our next meeting after we have the open house is I'll present that open house analysis. Then we're gonna go over the implementation portion of the plan.
So that'll probably be March's meeting, right? You won't have that done by February 1st. Unless you're a
So
magician.
as long as the planning commission is okay receiving the open house results at the meeting, that's
Okay.
very much doable for me.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that's fine. We just, we don't want to push you to the limit where, you can't get it, get
I wouldn't
something
set
through.
myself up for failure.
Okay,
So,
very good. All right, that's great. All right.
so then that would be at February's meeting and it's up to you. But I think typically that's also the meeting then I give you the entirety of the plan because we've been looking at it in parts.
Yep.
So now I'm going to give you this 50 odd pages and be like, here's the book. And then the next course of action would be then to host the public hearing.
Hearing. Would
And
we
so
do that
the-
in March?
No, you could not do it in March.
Nope.
So the first thing is that you initiate the process for a public hearing.
Okay,
It goes actually to then the village council to authorize.
sorry, okay.
And then the village council at that time will choose, do they also want to adopt the master plan at the end or not? So they adopt a
Gotcha.
separate resolution, which we have a sample that the village can
Now,
use.
so far, you haven't shared with them what we've been working on so far, have you? Generally
Briefly,
speaking,
so
or
they
no?
know that we're working on the master plan. I went to one of their meetings talking about the slogans.
Okay,
But as far as the minutia of everything,
Yeah.
no, I
Okay.
have not.
all right.
And so then, once the village authorizes them to do the public hearing, we have to wait 63 days for
Okay.
public comment as well as Elmont Township to comment on our plan and the county.
Okay.
So we're looking at, depending how notices all with the timing and everything, it would have to be May because we're at
May,
the
yeah.
beginning. And
Okay.
with where it would fit on the village council. So we're May for that official adoption. And so I know.
Are we still on schedule with your timeline though, as far as getting this done on the way we're supposed to? Timeline wise?
More or less,
But we're okay. All
Yep,
right.
more or less.
We don't want to hold you up, but we.
No.
Okay,
And then it's something that we haven't specifically talked about yet, but I know if you recall, every year, typically either in February, March, we do a joint training session with the village council as well as the planning commission and DDA. So I don't know if we want to talk about the master plan at that point in time. We might be already doing the public hearing portion maybe already out for notice, but that doesn't mean that we can't talk about it and say, is there anything we forgot or collaboration? Because we can make changes at our public hearing.
Well, we've been having inquiries from council on where we're at. So I think it would be the perfect opportunity for all boards to see what's going on and get their input.
Okay,
It'd almost be like their open house too.
yeah, okay.
And I think that'd be a great topic for the training session.
okay.
Because you'd kill two birds with one stone.
Does it still make sense to do that in February or March? Either one doesn't, if we want a more complete draft, March is easier to make sure that that's all,
Probably the first meeting in March then.
Yep,
okay.
yep. That would be good.
And we'll do it how we've done it before. It's at the village council meeting night.
Yeah, and that would work well too, because our planning commission meeting would probably have to be
Right after that.
right after that.
And it's not going to get in the way of your budget talks?
Yeah, February too.
Oh, I thought we said March.
Oh,
We're
March.
going to do March.
We were going to do
Yeah.
the first.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
No, we can.
We can alternate it.
Okay. So March 5th, is that right?
So we'd look for a joint meeting, that first meeting in March there, right?
So since we're talking about the joint meeting, other than the master plan, is there anything else you'd want training on?
Sorry, what did you say?
So at the joint meeting, is there additional training you would like other than we're going to talk about the master plan, what it means, and then what our plan currently is drafted?
planning commission wise?
Yes.
Sure. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Well,
Training for who, for us, the board members?
Yes.
I don't know.
So
Would
I
that be the
guess,
first real blush with the board, for the council to see this? That meeting?
yes. So I think you could do one or two other topics if they were smaller. So one, if you wanted, I don't think it's as applicable, but like last November or this past November, the governor did sign, and it's in effect, to work on the solar and wind energy preemption bill that passed. So that's not as applicable to us because we're not likely to have a wind installation or a solar of a commercial grade in our community. But if you did want to get educated on that, that's a quick 10, 15-minute kind of presentation just to kind of make you abridged of what that is. Because one of the things that's unique about it is with solar facilities, it usually is multiple properties. And it specifically says you can allow for multiple as one project. So there could be one parcel that's taken from the village in conjunction with the township, and we would get an additional $75,000 for being a community impacted by solar. So there's some different nuances that, you know, kind of applicable, but I don't think we want like an hour-long seminar on what it is and all that. But if you wanted a skinny understanding, so then you understood what was being talked about, we could do that.
Except for Tim and Steve, do the other members on the council realize the process we've been going through over the last several months? Because maybe a short presentation at that time, in addition to reviewing some of this, of just giving them an idea what we've worked through over the last several months might be informative to them. I mean, Tim knows and Steve knows because they
That's a good
sit here
idea.
every night, but the other members don't. And, you know, we've gone over a lot of material.
It might give them an idea of how laborious of a process this is.
Well,
actually
yeah,
is.
yeah, and, you know, it gives them an idea of, you know, what we're really doing and the amount of information and the volume of information you've given us to digest and try and put together a plan so the council can approve that plan eventually. That might be a nice little training, you know, short presentation as to here's what we've been doing over the last several months.
Sure.
The council will certainly be more receptive.
Yeah,
Knowing all the process that we've
yeah.
gone through. So you're indicating that there is, even though we cannot develop with regard to alternate energy, solar, wind, whatever, we still potentially could receive funds from that?
So if you're a participating parcel as part of the project, so for example, the Cherry Street project we talked about, that's a farm field. There could be a parcel that's touching that's still farmland, I believe. If I look back, I already closed it. But you could have that parcel be part of a solar installation and you get that $75,000 because you're part of that community. There's some other caveats in there. So you can't exceed, I think it's $130,000. So you could have like 3 jurisdictions in some of these mega fields that are involved.
I mean, the question came to my mind when we're talking about discussing the topic. Very interesting. Like I could take a college course in logarithms, which to me absolutely no good whatsoever. I guess I question the amount of time we'd want to spend on something like that, even though I would like to save the planet. Good luck with that. Unless there's some real benefit, I don't know that we want to spend a lot of time, a whole lot of time on that topic because we can't do much of anything with it.
That's something our master plan about, that we couldn't do solar. And windmills in it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of what we're talking about. Alternate energy.
Did we put something that, how we could not do it in the village?
No, there's nothing in the master plan about that. No.
No, I know there's
Place
been
for us to
discussion about
do it.
wastewater.
Of solar on buildings in it? Remember that?
Well, yeah, I don't know why that couldn't be done.
So the act that I'm talking about that was adopted isn't so much the utilization of solar or not solar. It's, I guess it's not the most politically correct, but it's preemption of if it is a commercial solar grade, there is a lot you cannot regulate anymore from a jurisdiction standpoint. Same thing with wind energy. They took a lot of the township ordinances and said you cannot enforce this anymore. So that would be more the gear of the training is these are all the things that you can no longer regulate associated with solar facilities, wind energy. There's also storage energies facilities that would likely mean substations. So we already have that going on. But they've done some preemption in which you have to adopt a separate ordinance if you want to have a say in that procedure. Otherwise, the state's approving it.
Glenn, I don't know if it came to the planning commission, but you might be referencing, I mean, village council back in the early 2000s, didn't we regulate personal windmills with height regulations?
Things like that, right.
Yeah, but that's a private thing to power your own house. Because there were inquiries back then about people putting a small windmill up in their own house to generate power.
Right.
But we had to do an ordinance with setbacks and that sort of thing for protection of the neighbors and that sort of stuff. And I think that's still in our ordinance, isn't it? So that might be what you're referencing.
That's probably, and then also, then we do solar on houses too?
That I don't remember. I don't know if we did anything about
I
solar.
don't remember.
The big thing was the windmills. is
Right.
What I remember.
You know, the solar may be in the ordinances already and not part of this master plan. We could have mentioned that. It's in the ordinance, not in this master plan.
That's, yeah.
Yeah, I believe there is in the ordinances, yeah. So I think if we do that at that meeting, I think that would help as far as, educating the rest of the members on the council so that when we're looking for their approval to move forward, they have some background and knowledge as to what we've been doing and how we got where we got.
Sure.
That would be helpful, I think.
Mhm.
Okay. So we'll do that the first meeting in March.
Yep.
Very good.
I think that is all for me tonight.
Thank you very much. Kim, do you have anything for us this evening?
Did I send out that education pamphlet
Yes.
to
Yes, you did.
everybody? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I
Yep.
did that. If anybody is interested in that, in any of that training, just let me know. I can sign you guys up. But that's it.
That's it? Any of the members have anything? Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I had a move from Steve and a support from Tim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.